Welcome to the Grace Way, a program from Grace Baptist Academy. Each episode is designed to share the heart and vision of our school through thought-provoking conversations, biblical truth, and meaningful insight. Whether we are answering your questions, outlining our philosophy, hearing from our staff or other professionals, our goal is to strengthen the partnership between home and school, all for the glory of God. And now, here's your host, Craig Carpenter.
Hello everyone and welcome again to the Grace Way. It's Mr. Carpenter here with you once again, and today on the show we have Pastor, who will be sharing his vision for Grace Baptist Academy. If you have not listened to the very first episode produced by Grace Baptist, where Pastor shares his testimony, I encourage you to go back and listen to episode number 1 before continuing with today's episode about his vision for our school. Welcome back to the show, Pastor. I'd like to start by asking you about your involvement in the school. Could you break down your involvement in the school from the time that you arrived in Mississippi all the way until now?
So I arrived in Mississippi in 1989, that fall, and was married in May of I arrived in 89, was married in May of 90. And then after the wedding that fall, I started teaching at Grace Baptist Academy. And I was, in the beginning, we had different curriculum, so I worked with high school students in general, coached the basketball team, preached in chapel, and then I spent also almost a semester teaching first and second grade, and I had to learn phonics charts and block and stick writing in the Abeka curriculum, and so I actually improved my own handwriting a little bit.
Okay.
But so it's long involvement, and then I stepped away from it for a little bit. Then we went to the Philippines as missionaries sent out of our church. And during that time, I taught in college, university, high school. They had a moral values recovery law whereby the public institutions were required by law to teach moral values. And so being a missionary there, we produced a curriculum, and we would get into as many places, everything from police stations to military camps to public education. And we would take the class hour for moral value recovery. And so it was extensive. It was multiple islands, many cities, many different schools. And I had a lot of fun doing it, always enjoyed it. And so then when the Lord brought us back in 2007 from the Philippines, the school at that time was quite small, and we prayed about actually closing it down because we didn't have the tuition income coming in enough to cover our teaching staff. So we made adjustments. The parents wanted to keep it open. And so we went to work, and I started out as administrator, principal, teacher, coach, janitor, maintenance guy, cleaned the toilets, you name it. And then we kind of started to slowly spread out. And the jobs at Grace Baptist Academy for myself have varied over the years. But at this point in time, I kind of help with the oversight of the school. Mr. Carpenter takes care of the principal administration side of things, and then I teach Bible class and world history to the high school students.
Thanks for getting us caught up on kind of where you're at and where you have been and your role in the school, and that's just to help the parents kind of get an insight as to where you're coming from. Sure. You've been the pastor of Grace Baptist Church since what year?
2007.
2007, and you came in August, correct?
Correct.
August of 2007. And so how fast did the school kind of come on your radar?
Immediately.
Okay. Like, what would you say is one of the top things that came onto your radar?
Yes. So there was a mortgage on the school building, and there was students and parents who wanted their kids in school. And we had teachers. There was, thankfully, a surplus left by the previous administration. And so we knew we could make it through a school year. And so lots of prayer and things such as that, and trying to get things headed in the right direction.
Let me ask, and let's start, I guess, with, as we go into the sort of the philosophy behind the school and the makeup of the school, could we go ahead and kind of just answer a really broad question? I'll let you take it in whatever direction that you'd like. But could you answer the question, what is God's will for Grace Baptist Academy? Or what do you think God's will is for Grace Baptist Academy?
Well, to begin with, it is a ministry of the church, and the Bible tells us in the book of Deuteronomy I believe it's chapter 6, that it's parents' responsibility to teach their children, to educate. And Deuteronomy, of course, Moses is instructing an entire nation, and they have children that need to be raised in homes and families that need to be strengthened and prepared. And they've come through the wilderness, and they're getting to the point where Joshua is about to take over in the not too distant future. And so the instruction is given, parents, while you're sitting down, standing up, going in, coming out, lying down, getting up, basically all day long we teach our children. We prepare them for life. We prepare them for their future. And so we know that has developed and changed over the years. That was, many, many thousands of years ago. And today, here we are in 2026. So what is this school? Why is the school here? Why is it important? Well, the school partners with the parents. And I fear that in public education, it's not a partnership, but a relinquishment, and that the parents really don't have a say. I've listened to leadership in the education world. I've asked questions, and some of my questions have been shot down because, I'm paraphrasing a quote, but basically parents aren't educated and trained to teach children, so they should just let that be left to the professionals.
And by the professionals, they would also mean the state.
Yes.
Is more or less.
Yes. State curriculum, state-approved teachers, state-approved testing and teaching methods, and so on and so forth. So I understand that you need people educated to teach. I do agree with that statement, but I believe that parents know their children better than anyone else, and not every child learns the same way. Not every need is exactly the same way. And so I think it's important for a Christian school to be able to partner with parents to prepare children for life. And of course, if they go to college, then there are requirements in order to pass an ACT test and get into that next level. So there is emotional preparation, there's educational preparation, there's spiritual preparation. And so we want to be a help and an assistant in those areas as we can.
I like that way you put that last phrase, that the assistant, and helping and assisting the parents in the education of their children. I like that answer. Since we went down that path, one of the questions that I wanted to ask was, how do you see the relationship not only between the school and home, but also the church, the school, and the home, sort of that three-legged stool, and how do you see that playing out, and how do you see that maybe even benefiting the child?
Well, the church is the New Testament institution that God ordained to give families a place to have community, to have support, to work together. God has gifted us with spiritual gifts, and Ephesians 5 tells us that's for the edification of the saints. And so we use them together, and then as a body of believers, we want to kind of co-op together, right? Educate our children and prepare them. And so as a church family, we decided to open a school whereby our children could attend. And of course, it's not just for our church, but children could come and learn a God worldview. We're Christians. And so I believe that a student needs to know that the philosophy of evolution, for example, is the teaching of evolution is out there, and people believe that, they teach that, they stand on it. But as a Christian, I want to go by what the Bible teaches. So the Bible teaches creation. And so I want to be able to say, here's what the Bible teaches, and that's what I believe. Here's what other things are being taught. Now let's look at life. Let's compare Scripture. Let's, walk through this thing. And so I think the church plays a huge part in the spiritual temperature, the spiritual direction, and then the school is just a partner institution. My children grew up, my wife homeschooled their earlier years. Of course, we were in the Philippines during their earlier years. And then they came to Grace Baptist Academy and graduated high school. And so some went on to college. One of my daughters wanted to get married and have a family, and so she is, and I have 2 grandkids. That's pretty exciting.
The most important gift you could be given, is that correct, from a grandfather's perspective?
It's a lot of fun, yes.
What role do you desire for the parents to play? So kind of getting down to the brass tacks, or really the practical side. What role do you want the parents to play in their education? I'm sure it's not just to sit on the sidelines. You want them actively involved in helping their child kind of get across that finish line of graduation and prepared for life.
So, of course, there's a lot of statements, sayings, cliches. There's good, bad, and ugly out there when you talk about these kind of things. So as a parent, I believe that my role was, number one, Grace Baptist Academy was not responsible for the education of my children. I was. So if I have the responsibility and then I delegate it to a teacher, then I know that if my child isn't doing well, if I looked on my schoolworks and saw that my son got a D, I'm not going to the teacher first. I'm going to my child. And I'm going to say what happened. I'm going to hear what they have to say. And then I'm going to go to the teacher. Now, there's different philosophies out there, but what I have found in many years of education, if a parent will always take the side of their child, then they might as well remove the child from the school and find a different place for the child to be educated. And the reason being is that children are super, way more smart than we as parents realize while we're going through it. And they know how to play one side against the other. They're professionals at it from a young age, just as we were. And so my child's going to say, well, the teacher didn't do this or the other student did that. And they're going to give those reasons to me. Of course, they don't want to get in trouble. You know, they may feel bad. They did get that grade. Yeah, all kinds of different things. But reality is they got what they earned. And so some children are going to be better in different subjects than other subjects. So, for example, if your child doesn't excel in mathematics, then I don't expect an A average if my child didn't excel in math, but I would expect their best effort. I would expect their trying. And I'm going to check out and ask the teacher, is the homework being turned in? Because as a parent, sometimes I say, did you do your homework? Oh, yeah, we're all set. Next thing I know, they quote unquote forgot. Well, how can you forget when you said you already did it? So, no child is perfect. They have a sin nature just like all of us. And so school is work. It's a discipline. When I went to the Philippines, learning a language is a discipline. I could come up with a lot of excuses, a lot of reasons why I didn't do well at first. The reality of the situation was I have to discipline myself. I have to do the work, and I have to be diligent about it. So what role do parents? Parents are the boss. Parents are in charge. It's becoming a new phenomenon that I'm hearing in current day that parents will make this statement. Well, we're really trying our best, but the child just isn't cooperating. Well, I'm thinking of the day and age in which I grew up, and if my dad, well, let me just say my dad never would have made that statement.
Would mine?
There would be, let's just say there would be extreme encouragement for me to change my outlook on education.
Some might call them consequences.
Consequences, yes. So I tried, didn't do well, and it's blame somebody else, and it's too hard, and I don't understand it, and all those things. Some are valid, some are not. But the reality of it is, my dad would never allow me to do less than my best. So I didn't like geometry very much. I didn't grasp it. I didn't understand it, and so my grade wasn't that great in it. But my dad didn't accept, I'm not going to try because it's too hard. I'm going to give up because I don't like it. I'm going to quit because my teacher doesn't do it or explain it the way I think it should be. My dad expected my best effort. Now, it wasn't an A class for me, just plain and simple. But if C was my best, if D was my best, my dad wanted my best.
And that's certainly all we require here
Absolutely.
At the school. Can you, one of the misnomers that I hear often is that, well, if you go to a Christian school, you're sort of going to be limited in job opportunities, college opportunities. Of course, that has not been our experience and is something that we regularly try to address. Could you go ahead and maybe take us through a few examples, of course not using names, but a few examples of graduates over the years? One of your favorite examples, of course, is your daughter and how she really excelled here and then excelled in the business world after attending a university.
Yes, so that's one example. My daughter graduated high school, and she had a decent GPA. It wasn't a 4.0. I don't remember it being a 4.0. But she went and took the ACT, and she got a good enough grade to get a free academic scholarship at JC. And so she first started out with a thought of going into nursing, and so that didn't fit her. And so we talked, we prayed together, and she switched over into business, international business, and Korea was her country of focus. And so she went to JC here in Gaucher, and that moved on to USA in Mobile. It was a pathway, so she got in-state tuition, though she was an out-of-state person. And she got on the academic scholarship. She got a Pell Grant along the way. She got Honor Society. And there was a couple other little scholarships that she got along the way. Just, hey, we're looking for them. We're applying to them. Let's see what we can get. And her college education was not filled with debt. She, during her senior year, was given an internship out at the shipyard with Soup Ship, running numbers in Excel spreadsheets. And, of course, COVID was there, so she did that from home. But it was a good job. They extended her a little bit, but the contract ran out for internships, and so she was laid off. And right away, she got on with a financial company, first doing their social media, geotagging, geofencing, promoting, watching the analytics and all of that.
I think you used all those terms correctly. Congratulations.
I hope so.
She'll let us know if you didn't.
Yeah, exactly. And so anyway, that's moved over into a much better position, and she's growing in it. And so it's our graduates have gone on to college in different states. Pensacola Christian College over in Pensacola. We have students that went into the nursing program. That is one of the better nursing programs in the entire country. We've had students go to college out in California, all kinds of different states, Louisiana, here in Mississippi. My son went to college up in Ohio. We've had multiple students graduate, enter the military. One of our graduates entered the military and is now in the legal field. I don't know his exact title or job description, but he's been in the Navy since graduation, and married one of his fellow students, his high school sweetheart, and they have a child, and it's a blessing to see how they're blessed in their lives. Others went into the military, went out into public sector work afterwards. One young man's a realtor out in Arizona. Another young guy is into bodybuilding, and he was in security stuff in the Air Force. We've had folks graduate and go out to the shipyard, and so all kinds of different, college, junior college, the workforce, the military. None of our students have been held back. And I would also say this. I talked to the Navy recruiter about 3 years ago, I guess, and he said this. He said, we are really focusing on our homeschool and private school students because there's less baggage.
Interesting.
It was interesting.
Mm-hmm. What if we could take just a real quick step back, because I want to visit the graduates, because every time a parent comes in, we're trying to put in their mind a vision of what the end is going to look like.
Right.
Because one of the things that we understand here at Grace Baptist Academy is the curriculum builds and the principles we're teaching build, and we have things on rotation even down to the nitty gritty, such as the chapters of the Bible that we'll memorize on a several year rotation. But what you say to somebody that just says, and especially in as far as the outlook on the parents are in charge of the child's education, what do you say to somebody who says, well, that's how they did it in the old days? That's the old school mentality. There's better ways to do things now. How would you approach that sort of thought process? Because it is something that we do get, on a regular basis, or at least that notion. And of course, you're saying this after having raised already 4 children out of the house who are all, or 3 of them grown, married, all, have taken on professional jobs in professional capacities at varying different levels, who are exactly the kind of person we'd like to see graduate from Grace Baptist Academy. But what would you say to that person who says, well, that's just how they did it back in the day, back in the old days?
Well, I mean, not to sound cliche-ish, but it still works. We've had students come in from the high school that were raised public school, and you hear things, and I do understand that it's from the version and the viewpoint of a 16-year-old in high school, for example. But when you have 30 and 40 kids in a class, and you're going to have botany, and you're going to spend a semester outside looking at flowers. The one guy he was in a school here in the area. What did you learn? What were your tests like? What were your quizzes like? What was the outcome? And he didn't. It wasn't pure negativity, but he came in and said, this school is quite a bit more difficult. What do you mean more difficult? Well, I have to study. Well, that's kind of what we want to hear. We do want to challenge our students. We want them to kind of test their own limits and expand that. That's a biblical principle. The Bible talks about strengthening the stakes and lengthening the cords. When you put a tent up, you want to make sure you pull it the right amount so that it's taut and the roof doesn't cave in. It's tight, and the stakes are all the way driven in. And you got to test it. You got to yank on that cord. And so I think it's important. We do build in the curriculum, and I think that helps all the way through. The thing that I enjoy about teaching is, for example, in world history, I have the opportunity to walk through. We're going through the Industrial Revolution right now. The Industrial Revolution was direct result of the Great Awakening. There was a spiritual jump in the nations, and that led to self-discipline in the citizens, which led to better families, which led to better education, which led to more critical thinking, and inventions began to pour out left and right. And from this bird's eye view, or this looking back, we can see God's hand has always been at work in history, and work is going to be a part of it. That work will look different ways at different times, but I think it's important that we see that and bring that all together in our thinking about, why should I stay at Grace Baptist Academy all the way through? I think that it's a school education that prepares in multiple ways.
Oh, I love that. I love that answer. I mean, so my next question was going to be something along the lines of, what would you like, or what would be the number one lesson that you would like a student to leave Grace Baptist Academy having learned? And you just said it's more than just X, Y, and Z. What do you mean by that?
So as a teacher, and as a pastor, I like to whet the appetite and not give every single piece of information. In other words, I want my students to get curious. And so whatever my subject is that I'm teaching, I need to bring it to them in a way that their curiosity is touched and it gets enacted and put into motion, and they begin to say, hey, I want to know more about that. And so what is, to me, I wanted my children to graduate with initiative and a work ethic.
I like that word, initiative.
I wanted them to take charge. Obviously, we're Christians. We understand God makes us. He has a plan for our lives, and we want to find that plan. We want to follow His will. but I wanted my children to look for it. I wanted them to be courageous and brave enough to explore, to test the waters and see. But that all takes initiative. It takes some discipline. And then when you're starting out, boy, you got to have work ethic. Some days we don't want to go to work. Some days we wake up tired. There's burdens that we're carrying. And a work ethic says there's a duty in life that I have to do. My wife and I raised 5 children, and we're involved in ministry work, which means you're available 24/7. And, you try to raise children, and sometimes you're up till 2 or 3 in the morning with a family going through crisis, and you got to get up and be in the school the next few hours later to teach a class. And it's not every day is that way, but there are some. And I think every parent is facing some of those days from time to time. And so I think initiative, work ethic, good character, those include how we treat our fellow citizens, our friends, our family. And our country's in a mess. We need to know and learn how to treat one another with respect and godly love and work together. We should be able to have a debate and people don't explode. We should be able to disagree agreeably. Not everybody's going to have the same philosophy. Not everybody's going to agree the same way. My wife and I don't agree on everything, but we have to learn to grow through it instead of allow it to tear us apart.
What is the impact that you desire to have in the community, or each graduate that you'd like to send out into the community? What impact do you want them to have? What roles do you want them to play?
Well, kind of a selfish goal. I want people to ask our graduates, "Hey, where'd you go to school?" And asking that because they're working, they're showing up on time. They're not hungover every Monday morning. They're not looking for ways to sleep and get out of work. They're looking for ways to fill and meet the need. And they're the first ones in the management's thoughts when they start considering promotions and new and higher positions.
So in other words, you'd like to see the mayor of Ocean Springs be a Grace Baptist Academy graduate.
Oh, yes. I've been praying about that for years. And I know politics is a very difficult field to get into, but we need Christian politicians. We do. So I think it would be wonderful to say the newly elected mayor of Ocean Springs is a graduate of Grace Baptist Academy.
Tremendous. And it also scares me because I interact with them every day.
They might remember some negative interactions.
Yes. I love the fact that you basically spent the last now 10 or so minutes just talking about how, sometimes we need to take a step back from the book. And as far as book, I mean like the textbook. Mm-hmm. And we need to teach character, moral values, things that are going to transcend the book, things that are going to carry us through life. Excellent. Yes. Absolutely what we want to see from our students here. Now, one of the things that I wanted to ask, of course, you didn't have the opportunity to receive a Christian education for the entirety of your schooling. In fact, you did spend many years in the public school. Do you wish you were able to graduate from a Christian school and attend from, a young age all the way through graduation?
It would have been better on the character side or the morals side. I didn't know what marijuana smelled like until I went to, I won't name names, but the high school that I graduated from. It was a very different experience going from 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th in Christian schools. So my elementary years were more public than Christian schooling. But then I had junior high in my first year of high school. So 7th, 8th, and 9th were all in a Christian school. And then there was a tragic event in the family. My folks didn't have the finances to go back. So I went 10th grade public school. And man, I was one of the few students that didn't party, that didn't get drunk, that didn't get high. And it was the 80s, Cheech and Chong were on everybody's joke list, and everybody's trying to act cool, and it was. I got another education at public high school. There were things and I'd never seen before, never heard before.
certainly
So-
an environment that you wouldn't want your children to have to go
Right.
through.
Now, they're going to see it in public. They're going to see these things and hear about it. And so we'll never be able to totally shelter our children, but being able to guide them through it with biblical principles, that's what didn't happen in the public school. No teacher's going to give you a biblical principle when you find out the guy's smoking a joint in the bathroom and you don't know what that smell is.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the things, as a school, we're trying to, if something is brought up, we're trying to ask the students and prompt the question in their head for their knee-jerk reaction to be, okay, well, what does the Bible say about that? And how should we approach it from there? What are some of the biggest cultural challenges that you see that are facing Christian education in 2026 and maybe the next few years?
I think that social media and AI are a great challenge for us. I think there are positive things with both of those, social media and AI, but I also think there's a number of negatives involved with them. When I was in high school, there was no such a thing as cyberbullying, for example. Nobody took a picture of another kid. Nobody posted a video of somebody tripping and falling, or no fight taking place. That was unheard of. So one of the problems with social media and AI is, and MIT just did a study that showed when you are a user of AI, the creativity side of your brain slips into neutral and it's not used. And so I think there's a hindrance. And so trying to take a child that will spend 6 hours a day with gaming, social media, AI, all this stuff, and then bringing them in and say, all right, now we're not telling them this terminology, but now we want you to think critically. We want you to read something, think about what you read, and then ask questions about it. You get a blank stare. And that's because of society. Things are being done for us. You do this and do that, and don't question this and don't question that. So I think those are probably the biggest things, because you study the Bible and it's amazing. We're instructed to search the scriptures, not just take the spiritual leader's word for it. We go study the Bible for ourselves. We work at it. We dig in, comparing this passage with this passage. Well, same thing in life. And we'll do that in some areas. Well, if I'm going to buy a car, I'm going to compare different brands and different styles and different engines and transmissions and find out, But what about in everyday life? So, yeah.
If I could share a testimony from that, I love your preaching, for the record. Okay, we got that recorded now for posterity's sake. But one of the things one of the most impactful sermons in the last 3 or 4 years in my life, what you're preaching from 1 Peter. Still preaching from Peter, but but one of the things about that is you said something that prompted something in my mind, and I went down a little bit of a rabbit trail, keeping one ear in tune with the preaching, one ear in tune with the rabbit trail that you sent me on. But the Lord used something that you just said to prompt me to go down that rabbit trail, to be curious, to take that initiative. The words that you were using just a few minutes ago to describe how we would like our students to turn out and what attributes we'd like them to carry into the real world. And I can just say that, you helped me with that personally from the pulpit. So I'm also publicly thanking you as well. There you go. Yeah. It's all on the record. It's all on the record now. There's a new trend, and I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's, if I wasn't afraid to hurt your feelings, here's what I would say. Would you like to participate in that trend today in speaking to maybe the parents and the children simultaneously? Is there anything, and again, the Bible tells us to speak the truth in love, and one of the things that we sort of pride ourselves on here at GBA is that we will tell you the truth. You're not going to get a political answer from us. We want to help. We want to help you understand the truth. So is there anything that you would say if you could just kind of rip the Band-Aid off?
I had a rude awakening myself. Okay. So I was a missionary. My children, 1, 2, 3 of them were born in the Philippines. One we adopted, and then 2 were born there, and then 2 were born here in the U.S. So, you look at your life, and you've surrendered to full-time ministry. We have family devotions when the children were little. in church all the time. And so you teach your children, this is the right way, this is what's right, this is what's wrong, this is what the Bible teaches us. We want to follow the Lord. We're Christians. We want to glorify Him. We want to honor Him, so on and so forth. And so it comes down to, I get a text from one of the teaching staff a few years ago, and my son was in class, and he said, Pastor, I have a situation. Your son lied to me. So I had a spot right there. Do I just accept what the teacher said? Because boy, as a parent, I'm like, I don't think my son would lie to a teacher. I mean, that's pretty ostentatious. That's that's stepping out there pretty far. So I asked my son, hey, did you lie to so-and-so? Oh, no, sir. Oh, okay, now I'm in a fix. Now I'm in a spot. Who do I believe? Well, parents, please, 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 don't believe your children first. I know that's hard to hear. It was hard for me. We went out to video camera time, and proof was laid out, and my son lied to me. And my son lied to the teacher, as he said, and he was given some in-school suspension time for it. And I had to swallow my pride and say, yeah, any student, any child can do that. That was hard for me as a parent to take. And so my point, or my thing would be to say to parents, we love our kids. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But love is not always believing them first. Love is getting the truth and not taking a side. I understand I'm always going to protect my children, but sometimes I have to protect them from themselves and not from somebody else. The teacher, our teachers are not paid state teacher salaries. They don't get paid the benefits. They don't have retirement. They don't have insurance. Our teachers are doing this as ministry, and they're not trying to go after our kids or something like that. We're blessed. We have good staff. And parents, please be careful about believing your child first. Get the whole story. And of course, students, the Bible says, be sure your sin will find you out. And I know when I was in school, there were things I went home and told my dad, shocked me. So I'm a quick study. Something happened at school. I went home and told my dad my truth, my version. Strangely enough, my dad didn't believe me right up front. He went to the school and talked to the teacher. Got home, and my dad believed in corporal punishment, let's just put it that way. And consequences were swift and severe, because I didn't tell the whole story. I lied about what happened, and I was trying to shade it to make it look good for me. And so, parents, I would highly encourage you, please, 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 your teachers would fall in love with you even more. They would appreciate you to a greater degree. You'd establish a wonderful relationship with them, because then it would feel like we're working together.
If we could go down the rabbit trail, or not a rabbit trail, because I do have it in my notes here, but just a couple quick questions, and then I'll ask you one more about the future. But a couple quick questions about the teachers. You kind of already answered one thing that you wish parents knew about the staff, in the fact that they love the children and they're really here. It is a sacrifice to a certain degree to be here at Grace Baptist Academy and to teach the students. However, what is maybe something that you wish the parents would pray for? Maybe something that you pray for that you wish the parents would pray for? And that's two questions in one. But what are the prayer requests that you have for the teachers?
Pray for the teachers to have wisdom and discernment. Pray for them, mental clarity. I think of the kindergartner teachers. If you've got 8 or 10 little ones with 1,000 questions and yelling and screaming, and just as you get into the tense moment of the book you're reading, I got to go potty. Just the life with a kindergartner. at home you have one, maybe two littles, and then you're, picture being in a room with 8 or 10 of them. And so pray for the teachers. Understand, for example, I don't mean to embarrass Miss Hannah. She's a blessing. She took a $4 or $5 an hour pay cut to come and teach in kindergarten. She had a job. She was making good money. And she prayed, and she believed the Lord wanted her here. And so our teachers are committed. They do love the Lord, and they do love the kids. When I hear a teacher having to correct a child or get on to a child or say, hey, you didn't do your homework, now this is going to happen, there's no gleefulness. There's no like, I got you, I'm going to get you back. No. It's not that way at all.
I was surprised to learn recently that was a thing. That the gotcha mentality, the whole
it's swirling around.
Yeah, I was very surprised. Okay, you kind of summed it all my questions. You answered all 3 of them in one. So
good.
You're very efficient, very efficient of you. Let's talk about the future of Grace Baptist Academy. What do you want to see in the future? I'll ask 3 questions. Take whatever direction that you want. What excites you about the future and where GBA is headed? What do you want GBA to be known for in 10 or 20 years? And then if a parent asked you why they should consider GBA, what would you say? And I throw that last one in there because I really do think it is about the future. Mm-hmm. And so what comes to mind when I ask those questions?
So, give me the first one again.
What excites you about where?
I started thinking about the second one too much.
Maybe we do need to break them up here. But what excites you about where GBA is headed?
Early on there was a lot of help in the school, but I myself running it for the first few years, and even Dr. McDarris helped, but both of us were called to evangelism, pastorate. And so the leadership of the school kind of guiding the school down the path was not somebody called to education. And so I'm very excited that leadership now is filled with folks that are called to education, and that to me really makes a difference. God gave us spiritual gifts. It's exciting to me to know that God has given Mr. Carpenter the spiritual gift of administration, because like it or not, part of education, a huge part of it, is planning and preparing and getting things in place and lined up so that when the thing starts, whether it's an event or a sport or a special day, when that start button goes, then people know what's expected of them. They know what needs to be done, and so that part is very exciting. Next question.
What would you like GBA to be known for in 10 or 20 years?
I want our school to be known for producing excellent students, students that are prepared. They're able to sit down, take their ACT, get the score needed, get the acceptance into the college of their choice, head into the direction. And I'll say it again, but when I make these statements, I am, as a pastor, I'm including in that this is a Christian school. We're Christians, and God has a plan for each life, and that's what we're chasing hard after. And so God doesn't call everybody to be a pastor, but He did me. And so that's what I had to prepare for. And so each one of our students, I look out, even at the shipyard, our graduates get promoted fast. One of our students, he's already making now more than his dad makes, who has been out there for 20 years longer than he has. And I hear that, and I kind of feel bad for the dad, but it's also kind of exciting to know that this guy went kindergarten through 12th grade in our school. He walked out to the shipyard, he went through the training, and now he's fast tracking and he's promoted. He even stepped out and went to the Marines and cross-trained. He learned Farsi and Persian, all of that. They moved him from language acquisition over into cyber warfare, and he just decided he didn't want to stay in the Marines. And so now he's back at the shipyard. But, I mean, the dude has jumped career fields, focuses, and I think we had a part. Obviously, God blessed him with the brain that he has. But we had a part helping to prepare him for when he stepped out off of the, here's my diploma, my tassels turned and my cap's flying in the air and we're heading out, we're done. So that's what I'm excited about and want to see in the future.
If a parent asked you why they should choose GBA, what would you say?
The big thing for me, teachers care. It is truly a GBA family. We strive to work through things. We are smaller than a public school, and so we are able to talk through things more, extract more lessons, even if it's a difficult situation. We've got a bunch of kids. Sometimes one comes in with having a bad day and they let something fly verbally, and the other child just have a bad day, and here we go. Well, I don't have to just say, all right, you two just sit over there and be quiet. We can sit down and talk about it for a minute. Hey, what's going on? So I think knowing that we have a teacher to student ratio that allows for more input and investment individually, I think that's a big thing. I think that added to the stability of my children when they graduated. They were comfortable in college approaching their teachers with any situation. And I think it's because they had so much interaction during their high school years with their teachers. And so I think that's a wonderful reason. I do understand that the cost of tuition in a private school, you have to drive the student in, pick them up, and there's expense with the gas and the time. I do understand that part of it. But I know that for me, the education that my children received, it was a blessing. I'm thrilled, happy for them. And so I speak, from experience, and I do understand I was part of the teaching staff, and the school is something I'm very involved with. But even still, I think that's a strong encouragement. Is another support system, a community, family atmosphere, and being prepared.
What a great conversation. Thank you very much, Pastor, for sharing your vision with us today. If you have any questions, please reach out to the email of the show. We'd love to connect with you. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to answer more questions and perhaps having Pastor back on again soon. He will be back again with us probably in the next month or two. He'll be teaching on something from the Bible, and we're going to be excited because next week we're beginning a new series, What Does the Bible Say About? And we'll be talking about what does the Bible say about money, starting off with a topic that's certainly important to many people, especially young people. So we hope you'll join us again. Thank you very much for listening, and students, let us continue to walk the Grace Way together.
Thank you for listening to the Grace Way. We hope today's message strengthened your connection to both the Lord and our ministry. If you have any questions you would like to have answered on the program or would like to connect with us, please email us at thegraceway@gbaos.org. Until next time, let us continue walking the Grace Way together.